Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. Okay, so we got a lot of Mitch McConnell news just dropped. And for people that haven't been following, let me just get you up to speed. About a month ago, Mitch McConnell it has been widely reported that Mitch McConnell suffered a cardiac arrest in his home and was taken to the hospital. No one has seen nor heard of him since, although three of the biggest insiders, including one of them, which we'll talk about in a little bit, from CNN, claims to have had these long, detailed conversations with him. Talk about Scott Jennings over on CNN and two of his other close friends, which nobody believes. And today, a cell phone video that a neighbor took when Mitch McConnell was taken to the hospital has just been released by CNN, and it's going very viral all over the place. Now, this video was taken June 14th. Now, those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see the video. So those of you that are listening on the other podcast platforms, I'll describe everything. But remember, the reports are that Mitch McConnell had a cardiac arrest and he was taken to the hospital, and he hasn't been seen since. Now, if you watch this video that I'm going to play for you, there's a lot of questions about this, and a lot of things just don't make sense. In fact, none of it makes sense. So you see the paramedics, there's police officers there, EMTs, firemen.
Not riding with them.
And they put Mitch McConnell in a ambulance. Now remember, the reports are that he had suffered a cardiac arrest, was found unconscious. A couple things about this just send off sirens to everyone, not just me, everyone, anybody that's got a lick of common sense. The firefighters, EMT paramedics, the police, none of them are in a hurry. They're moseying along like this is nothing. Nothing. Okay? Two other things about it. When you see Mitch McConnell's face, they don't have him on oxygen. Now, if someone has suffered a cardiac arrest, one, they're hurrying to the hospital. They're doing what they can do at the scene. They're trained for that, but they're rushing to the hospital so he can be seen by medical doctors and have all the equipment, but they're not rushing. No oxygen on him and not rushing. Then you can actually see Mitch McConnell's feet. And they have him, I'm not sure what you call these things, but it's kind of like you know how they pick somebody up on a blanket? You know, they roll somebody over on a blanket like, you know, they do in the hospitals. They want to move them from one bed to another. They pick him up with a blanket underneath him. It's easier to pick him up. He's on something that looks kind of like a blanket. You can see his feet, and there's no socks on his feet. His feet are bare, naked, and I don't see his feet moving. Now, I'm going to play this video again. I don't see the feet moving. Let me go through this. It's a short video, just 16 seconds long. I'm just looking at the feet.
Not riding with them.
No, his feet are not moving. No, his feet are not moving at all, which I find very odd. Very odd. Now, Laura Loomer reported, I don't know, maybe 2-3 days ago that he is brain dead in the hospital, according to her sources. Okay? And Laura Loomer has a 100% accuracy rate. But I'm looking, I don't see his feet moving, I don't see oxygen, and I also don't see anyone in a hurry to get the ambulance there to the hospital. So and CNN's been running with this all day. They broke this story originally earlier today, and it's gone viral online. And what people are saying is that he's already dead there. I don't know if brain dead or dead, but how is he there without his feet moving, no oxygen, and they're not in a hurry? And also the Capitol Police are there. There's a security situation. The Capitol Police have the street blocked off. So, he's a high-profile person. So nothing is figuring here. And have any of you ever had paramedics come to your house for you or a family member? And sadly, I've had it happen many times. This is not how they would behave if somebody had a cardiac arrest. There's just, or was in this condition. And for him not to have the feet moving, I find that feet not moving and being totally stiff, and we can see them, there are no socks on his feet or anything. They look, honestly, they look stiff. So is Mitch McConnell dead or alive? And is Mitch McConnell, or is he brain dead? We don't have the answers to these questions. Jennings over on CNN said he had a 17-minute conversation with him. He just said that 2 nights ago on CNN. And people are pretty disgusted by Scott Jennings for saying that because nobody believes him for good reason. And what's going on here in Kentucky. Now, first off, I'll tell you this. The governor is a Democrat. The way that it works in Kentucky, now you have to remember, Mitch McConnell is not running for re-election. His term is up. And in November, there will be a new election for the new senator, okay? And in January, there'll be a new senator from Kentucky. It's not going to be him. However, if he is dead, incapacitated, or resigns, the governor doesn't appoint a replacement. The governor is required within 30 days to have a special election to elect the senator who will finish out Mitch McConnell's term. And everybody knows what's going on here, okay? The Kentucky Republicans are the worst. When you hear me get calls from these seminar callers, right? The Republicans who hate President Trump, they're almost always from Kentucky, aren't they? And our 2 Kentucky senators, Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. Mitch McConnell has been obstructing Trump in both of his terms. He's like the king of the rhinos. Rand Paul, he claims to be a libertarian, and President Trump's even talked about this. I think Rand Paul, I agree with President Trump. President Trump says Rand Paul uses the libertarian label as a cover so he can obstruct everything that the Republicans do. So the Republicans of Kentucky are the worst of the worst Republicans, meaning they are 100% anti-Trump and rhinos. Republicans in name only, or as I like to call them, rats, Republicans against Trump. I've been trying to get that to catch on for years. It's never quite caught on, but I like rats, don't you? No one likes rats. Rhinos, I like rhinos. You don't want to be around, they kill you, but they're I like rhinos, but rats are they're rats. Republicans against Trump. And what their fear is that the special election would result in a MAGA senator. Now, what's going on in their primary process and everything in Kentucky, we don't know too much, about the backgrounds and everything that's going on there. It hasn't been vetted too much, but, the Kentucky Republican establishment, they're working with the Uniparty to do what it is they do. But a special election could result in a MAGA Republican. And right now, what the Mitch McConnell rhinos in the Senate are doing is obstructing everything President Trump is doing. They've been stopping the Save America Act for months, and Thune has remained in power. He keeps them out of recess like constantly, but they get a good MAGA Republican in there, we could get the Save America Act. Not only that, Thune could find himself no longer the Republican majority leader in the Senate, and that's what they're trying to hold up. They are obstructing. This is obstructionist. Regardless of whether or not he's dead or brain dead or alive or not, he cannot fulfill his job as the United States Senator, and he should be forced to resign and replaced, okay, with this special election. But that's what they're trying to avoid. Now, that special election, that senator would only hold the office until January, and then whoever wins in November, which it could be the person that wins the special election, things like that happen, they could win the seat for the next 6 years. Which is a senator's term is 6 years. But this is the Republican rhino establishment. This is the uniparty at work right here. And you guys out there that are new to politics, and when I say new, I mean since Trump has been on the scene for 11 years. Before President Trump came down the escalator, to be a Republican was meant to have, all of our people were like Mitch McConnell. They were all rhinos. It sucked. We couldn't get anything done. They would tell you what you wanted to hear in the elections, and then they'd get in there and they would work with the other side. And President Trump has done a massive purge of rhinos. We've been very successful at the state level. That's how all this redistricting happened with the congressional districts in the last few months. We've been very successful in the House, but the Senate's more difficult because they have 6-year terms. Only a third of the Senate is up every 2 years, and it's a little more difficult. And the Senate, because they have 6-year terms, they don't have to run that often. A lot of them get pretty overconfident, and they are obstructionist, and that's what's going on. I mean, we have the majority. Think about it. We have the majority in the Senate, but we can't get the most important piece of legislation that President Trump has proposed, maybe in both of his terms, which is the Save America Act. Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, another thing, too, about Mitch McConnell, I'll play the video again. I do not see, just try to look for his feet. To you, is it likely that his feet would be so stiff like this and not moving? If he was if he was with it, remember, they're not hurrying. They're not in a rush.
Not riding with them.
See, look at that. They got him on the blanket. The feet aren't moving. And she's certainly not in a hurry. So I don't know. That's very suspicious to me. Very suspicious. Now, another thing about Mitch McConnell, his wife, Elaine Chao, is originally from China. She was the transportation secretary in President Trump's first term, and President Trump made her transportation secretary because he was trying to get Mitch McConnell to work with him, which didn't work, but he tried, getting that solid. But a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that Elaine Chao, Mitch McConnell's wife, is a CCP spy, and she's Mitch McConnell's handler. They've been married for quite some time. 3 days after Mitch McConnell was taken to the hospital in this ambulance, 3 days, his wife flew to China and had a personal meeting with the vice president of China. Now, what do you think that was all about? First off, what kind of husband or wife would do such a thing? Fly across the planet like that? I don't think so. And, and meet with somebody so high up. She couldn't do that on a Zoom call. She couldn't FaceTime him. So why'd she go over there? Well, if it's true that she's his CCP Chinese handler, this is a big loss for them. It's a big loss for them. Because of his seniority and everything, Mitch McConnell, he not only has influenced U.S. policy, both foreign and domestic, and all kinds of legislation over the years, he also gets access to a lot of classified information about all kinds of things. So that's a very important source that they're losing if it's true that she's his handler for the CCP. And I don't think that's far-fetched. I believe that. Now, I'll tell you, Scott Jennings, with this video, I got to wonder what's going on with Scott Jennings. Now, Scott Jennings over on CNN, MAGA people, we all love Scott Jennings. He's very good on these shows on CNN. Even last night, he was filleting Democrats right and left. He's like a samurai. However, he was on the staff of Mitch McConnell. He came up through the ranks through Mitch McConnell, right? Mitch McConnell was his mentor. Not only did he work for Mitch McConnell, he worked on multiple Senate campaigns, and then he went on to work in the G.W. Bush White House. So he's part of the Rhino establishment. But he's a Mitch McConnell insider. And on CNN yesterday, when I keep calling him Kevin Jennings, my apologies. Kevin Jennings is the guy on Jeopardy. Scott Jennings, the Mitch McConnell sycophant here, who on CNN blew his credibility. Listen.
He called me this morning before I did my radio show. We talked for about 17 minutes. He talked a lot about the situation with Iran, talked a little bit about Ukraine and what's going on in Europe. I told him I'd been to the Teddy Roosevelt Library. We talked a little bit about the history of the vice presidency.
Now, first off, one of the reasons we call BS on this, everybody, all of us calling BS on him, is we've seen Mitch McConnell over the last year or so on television. He couldn't put 3 words together on television, right? We see him in the Senate. And now all of a sudden he's up to speed on everything, and he's having these detailed conversations with Scott Jennings.
How Roosevelt had transformed that in the modern presidency, a little history of the Senate. I mean, it was a wide-ranging conversation. I talked to him often. I hadn't talked to him since he'd been in. I'd gotten a few text messages from him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So it was good to hear his voice. Voice sounded strong and sounded like he was keeping up with the news to me.
Did you ask
Anybody believe that? He sounded strong. He's keeping up with the news. And what's this 17-minute conversation? What kind of wouldn't you normally say, we talked for about 20 minutes? We talked for 15, 20 minutes? Where would you get this thing that we talked for 17 minutes? You know what I mean? That sounds like either it's either a scripted thing to say, or it's some type of hostage video signal to everyone that he's saying things against his will. But I think he's part of Team McConnell.
To me.
Did you ask him how he was feeling?
Yeah, he said he was feeling okay. Obviously well enough to call me on the phone, and obviously well enough to talk to Barrasso and Thune. Now, look, I'm not qualified to discuss any medical issues or give you any information about that. That's really for him or his staff to do. But, I talk to him from time to time, and I see him from time to time. And, we had a conversation today about the things that we normally talk about, which are news of the day, political stuff.
Did you come away feeling like he's still capable of serving the people of Kentucky as senator?
I came away feeling that he was staying on top of the news. Again,
Please.
His condition and why he's in the hospital or when he might come out or look, that's.
Do you know why, and are just saying it's not at liberty to share?
I do not know why. I only know, frankly, what has been reported or what his office has said.
Yeah, okay. So Scott Jennings here. By the way, Kevin Jennings is the host of Jeopardy, and so I keep getting my Jennings mixed up. Scott Jennings is the McConnell disciple here on CNN. I wonder if Scott Jennings is freaking out right now. Because if he's lying, and I believe he is, don't you, about this phone conversation, and we see Mitch McConnell, his feet are naked, and they're not moving. There's no oxygen on him. They're not in a hurry to get him to the hospital. I wonder if Scott Jennings is panicked. Let's take some calls. If you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free, 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Sean from Massachusetts.
Hey, Sean, what's up?
Well, yeah, you know what? This whole thing with McConnell, it just seems so contrived. 17 minutes, he can't even last 17 seconds in his words.
Exactly.
So I'm definitely not buying this. And another thing, this is an establishment job because they're just trying to prolong this corpse because they're afraid of what
so you think you think Mitch McConnell's dead?
I think he's dead. I think, or he's on his way to being dead, if he's not already. He's just about there. He can't last much longer. And, another thing, Rick Scott, I hope he, it's with John Thune, 3-4 weeks ago, he proposed a resolution to ban Xi Jinping. And we talk about Mitch McConnell's wife, in league with China, which we know that she is. And I think that, the next time we come around, we need to.
Well, you know what I wonder? We know for a fact that the CCP have infiltrated California politics, the Democrat Party out there, right? But I wonder, does the CCP, do they control Kentucky Republican politics? Because you look at Mitch McConnell, if the rumors are true about his wife, and then you see Rand Paul's always obstructing everything that we're doing. You got to wonder, do the CCP have a real strong foothold in the heartland of Kentucky?
Well, if they have a stronghold in California, which is a very, very big state, I mean, why couldn't it be Kentucky too?
California has a large Asian population. It's easier for them to blend in than Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're right there. Another thing, though, in Kentucky, you do have all these rhinos, though. and you have people like, powerful people. I mean, a few powerful people can make up for a lot of different, just regular people.
And there's
they
big
do
money
both
in
ways.
Kentucky. Remember, Big Tobacco based out of Kentucky. People don't talk about Big Tobacco anymore, but, remember all those days. Yeah, all right. Hey, listen, great points. I appreciate the call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian,
Yes,
can you hear me okay?
I can. You're choking. Are you okay? Need the Heimlich?
Sorry about that.
I can't help you with the Heimlich over the phone.
Hey, yeah, man, holy crap. Hey, when you first played the Scott Jennings thing, I think it was 2 days ago, I wanted to call in about it because I'm pretty much disappointed in that because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you often talked about those being held hostages types of videos.
Yes.
And when I saw him saying that, what came to my mind was if he would have said, "Oh, we had about a 2.5 hour conversation, blah blah blah,"
Or we talked for
there's no
15
way-
or 20 minutes.
There's no way in hell after seeing this guy, Mitch McConnell, fall down on Congress floors on those
Yeah.
beautiful floors, and they had to pick him up. The guy couldn't utter out words.
But
It reminded me
I just looked up. The 17th letter of the alphabet is Q.
Always going back to that 17th.
So I don't want to. I'm not. So I don't know. So I just looked it up online. I didn't know that off the top of my. So Kevin Jennings said they talked, or Scott Jennings. I gotta break that. I gotta put his name. I gotta write down Scott Jennings on my computer screen. Scott Jennings
I know
said.
you keep saying that.
Scott Jennings said that they talked for 17 minutes. 17. The 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. So was that a hostage signal? Like I'm being forced to say these things?
There is such a weird thing. There's such a weird thing about that that you brought that up, Q, and it's the 17th letter. Why? I would have believed Scott Jennings if he would have said we talked about 2 to 3 hours. There's no way Mitch McConnell's going to get through all that conversation in 17 minutes. It's a lie. I don't know why he did it. Obviously, he's establishment. He sold his soul. He's in the grift, but he is.
Well,
he is
if Kevin, here I go again. Maybe I should just call him Jennings. Maybe I should just stick with
You got
Jennings.
to write it down in big letters.
I don't know,
Write it
man.
down in big letters.
Maybe I need to get tested for the Alzheimer's, right?
That's funny.
Maybe I'm getting the dementia. I don't know. But if okay, so he's no. Listen, Scott Jennings said we talked for 17 minutes. 17 is the letter of the alphabet is Q. If he was giving us a signal that he's being forced, that would mean he's still an okay guy, right? Like he's being forced to do this.
Brian, you hit on something. He was giving a signal to others because you never know whose phones Trump is listening to.
Exactly.
With, considering Elon, you never know. It is amazing that you said that, actually, But I know he's lying. I like Scott Jennings. Yeah, but bro, come on. At least say 2 to 3 hour phone call. Don't say 17 minutes, 20 minutes.
I'd say 5. We talked for 5 or 10
Hey.
minutes. We talked for 15, 20 minutes. We didn't talk for Q minutes. It's an odd number.
Yeah,
It's an odd number to say.
Mitch McConnell is like missing in the bushes, like Joe Biden walking around the back of the door trying to get in the White House, and you don't know where he was going.
That's right. I remember that. All right, man. All right. I appreciate the call. Take care. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we've hit on something. Maybe Scott Jennings. All right. Got it. Maybe Scott Jennings isn't that bad. I don't know. Well, I'd certainly like to hear your thoughts. I have a lot of other things I do want to cover, but you're welcome to call in about this. The number is, if you're watching live on YouTube, the toll-free number is pinned in the live chat. It's 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Those of you that are new to the program, welcome. Now, I was talking on the morning show today that there was a major assassination attempt foiled by the Israelis on President Trump in Turkey this week, right? That's where there was all this talk about which Air Force One he would fly on. I was going through the list off the top of my head of the assassination attempts against Trump. I came up with like 12 without even thinking. President Trump has had more assassination attempts on him than all of the other presidents combined. And that's not an exaggeration. And I forgot about one. There's so many. I got to make a list. But I forgot about the UFC fight. Right? Yeah. There was a migrant had organized a team to launch a major assassination plot on the president at the UFC fight. The FBI out of Columbus, Ohio, I guess they're in charge of the case. I don't know why they're running point on this and not the D.C. people. I don't know, but they had a press conference about it. Listen, this is the FBI special agent in charge. They did an arrest. The leader was in Cleveland. That's why they did it there. But anyway, if you're on hold, hang in there. This is the special agent in charge in Columbus, Ohio, my hometown, about the UFC assassination attempt.
Through this investigation, we learned the group allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty attack involving the use of drones, armed with explosives and firearms meant to shoot people fleeing in the crowds. Our command posts also included membership of the Secret Service and other partners to share information in real time and to help ensure no violence occurred at the White House UFC event.
Yeah, it goes on. So this guy had a whole team. So this wasn't just going to be an assassination attempt on the president, the cabinet, and of course a terror attack as well on all the spectators.
Or any other high-profile events. Through this investigation, we learned the group allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty attack involving the use of drones, armed with explosives and firearms meant to shoot people fleeing in the crowds.
Okay, and now this story has completely evaporated from the news. And it was led, the ringleader that was arrested in Ohio was an illegal migrant from Mexico. And now we had an assassination attempt 2 days ago by the Iranians on the president in Turkey. There have been about 15 assassination attempts that I can think of on President Trump. And I may have forgotten about some. That's why I say I need to make a list. This is insane. And the media don't cover it because, the people that are doing these assassination attempts on the president are people that oftentimes are very openly the people the left are advocating for. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Myron. Sorry, hold up.
Okay, turn down the volume. Yeah. Turn down the volume of the computer, Myron. Where are you calling from, Myron?
I'm calling from Texas, and I just want to tell you what you're doing is a great thing, and you inspire me a lot in my beliefs. And by the way, you're a Republican bitch. I fucking hate you, stupid
Now let
bitch.
me ask you why. He hung up. He hung up. I was going to talk to him, and I knew where he was going, and it's unfortunate that he ran and hung up that way because I wanted to talk to him about why he would use such inappropriate language, right? And I want to tell you guys that are new to the program, okay? I take live calls every day. Every day. I do, during the week, I do 2 shows a day, mornings and afternoons. I'm here on the weekends as well. And I take live calls. And everyone, regardless of their political beliefs and backgrounds, are welcome to call me. If you disagree with me, you are more than welcome to call me and challenge me on anything I say, right? And maybe you'll prove me wrong. I doubt it, but you can try. So there's no need to call in and act like that. You're very welcome to call in and challenge me any time. But first, we're going to take a quick break, all right? And after the break, I got a lot of things I want to get into. My name is Brian. If you'd like to call in and you're watching live, the number is 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. The Brian Craig Show is available on all podcast platforms, and if you want to catch the show live in video form, that's on YouTube. So wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube, just search for The Brian Craig Show. All right, if you're on hold, stand by. We'll take a quick break and be right back. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Brian, this is Joan from Tampa Bay. I just got to say, Jupiter Joe Thomas, I called him. I almost fell off my chair. A 5-year annuity. I get a hefty monthly allowance. and I don't even touch my principal.
I thank you, Joan in Tampa Bay, for taking my advice. And those of you out there that have not yet done it, take advantage of the no-charge consultation that Jupiter Joe Thomas offers. I'm going to give you the number. It's 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, jupiterjoe.com. And Joan in Tampa Bay, I think you might be the new Jupiter Joe Thomas commercial.
Well, it's a win-win situation. You never lose your principal.
Exactly. Yeah, guys. Again, the number for Joe Thomas, 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, jupiterjoe.com. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions? You work hard, but feel stuck, exhausted, or disconnected from the life you truly want? It's time to stop surviving and start living. And you can do just that with the book from author Jane Morales Moras. Stop Dragging, Start Living, Reclaim Your Purpose and Power. Available on Amazon. This inspiring and practical guide will help you break free from self-doubt, rediscover your purpose, and build the confidence to create the life you've always dreamed of. With this must-read and life-changing book, you'll discover how to reconnect with your dreams, overcome negativity, build resilience, set healthy boundaries, and align your emotions with your goals so you can finally move forward with clarity and purpose. Whether you're a student, entrepreneur, professional, or simply someone ready for a fresh start, this empowering book provides real-world actionable strategies to help you stop living by other people's expectations and start becoming the person you're meant to be. Your purpose is waiting. Your best life is still ahead of you. Stop dragging. Start living. Reclaim your purpose and power. From author Jane Morales Moras is available right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. Start your transformation right now and order your copy of Stop Dragging. Start Living. Reclaim your purpose and power on Amazon. What if you could have a professional website online in just 60 seconds for less than $1? You can with forless.ai. That's FOR less.ai. Forless.ai is the fastest and easiest way to build a beautiful website using the power of artificial intelligence. With forless.ai, there's no coding, no designers, and no complicated software. Simply go to forless.ai. Describe your business or idea in plain English. And forless.ai automatically generates a complete, ready-to-publish website in seconds. Whether you're starting a small business, promoting your services, launching a side hustle, or building your personal brand, forless.ai gets you online quickly, affordably, and professionally. Spend less time building and more time growing your business. Build your website in just 60 seconds for less than $1. Visit forless.ai right now. That's FOR less.ai. Forless.ai. Less time, less effort, more results. Forless.ai. I tell you, we're going to be controlled by AI, man. I tell you, AI. I was watching an old episode of Star Trek last night. I watched Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and if you have Pluto, they have a whole Star Trek channel. It's the original Star Trek, the 79 episodes on continuous loop. So I just jump in there all the time and watch some or part of an episode or something. And they had an episode, it's a pretty good one, called The Ultimate Computer, and it's about AI back in the 60s. And it's such a strange thing because, I remember when I was a kid, they would always talk, in the year 2000, we're going to have this. In the year 2000, and if you remember Terminator, the original Terminator was about AI taking over the computers and taking over. I mean, and so science fiction has become science fact and reality. We're seeing it, aren't we? It's everywhere. Okay, so the last gentleman from Texas gave me a reminder to talk about this other issue. There's really a sad case out of Texas where there was an ICE-involved shooting with a group of migrants that resulted in one illegal migrant losing their life. And these things are tragic. We don't want to see people get shot by police, by federal agents, and the police and federal agents don't want to be shooting people either, right? you know, and it's a sad thing, but there's a deeper story with this guy that we just don't know about yet in Texas. You know, we saw his sons, and you know, hey, listen, we've all got kids, and I saw his sons with their press conference, and my heart goes out to them. You know, I'm a son. I know some people in the audience think I'm a mother as well, but a different kind of mother. And I'm also a parent, so I get it, you know. But if you've seen the video, there's been some video that was released by the local news in Texas. And I'm not sure if it was from a street cam or a bystander, but you can see, and I'm sure we'll get better video as time goes on, because the ICE officers do have body cams, but they haven't released that footage yet. But you can see that the migrant that was killed by the ICE officers was fleeing in that white van. They followed him from his home. He had this white van. He went to another location, picked up other people, of which one of them was the main target of their investigation, apparently. They attempted to pull him over. He refused to pull over. There were 2 ICE vehicles. They tried to box him in, which is a normal tactic by police and federal agents. And he tried to evade. They tried to stop him. He tried to run them over with the car. The ICE officer fired. And there's another video that has been released. I'm not going to show it, but there's another video where you could see, sadly, the guy dying as the ICE officers with him, and it's a trap. But there's a bigger story here, and the media are trying to put together a narrative that, you know, this was just a regular hardworking dad. He went to work every day. He was in the United States for 30 some odd years. He did everything right, and then this happened. There's more to this than meets the eye, and we haven't gotten a lot of information yet. And if you remember, this is what happened with that Maryland man last year. They were making this guy Father of the Year, and then we find out he's MS-13, which the government has designated a foreign terrorist organization. There was that body cam footage that came out from the state trooper in Tennessee, and he was a known human trafficker for MS-13, which is slave trafficking, moving migrants across state lines. And the Tennessee state trooper, the state troopers, before they let him go on that call, contacted the federal government, and immigration services said let him go. I don't know why offhand, but the Maryland man turned out to be a very bad dude. This guy that was shot by ICE, that's in the news right now, he left his house, went and picked up other illegals. One of them was the target of the ICE investigation, and then he goes on a chase and evades and tries to run them over. There's more to this guy. Now, was he being forced by the other guys in the car, or was his job to transport it? Whatever he was doing, he was in the country illegally. He was driving the vehicle, and he was a lawbreaker. And, you know, the left and out west, where there's or in other cities in the country where there's a large illegal migrant population, they have been convinced of some things that just are not true. A lot of very bad misinformation. And some of that misinformation is that ICE are not police officers. And they compare them and tell them that back in the old days, when slaves would escape the plantations, they'd make their way to free states. And the slave masters would they had fugitive slave catchers. They would hire them to go to the free states. They track down the escaped slaves and bring them back to the plantation, right? So, and God, Lee, that's a terrible, terrible thing. It's hard to believe such things happen, huh? But it did. And they've convinced the illegals that ICE are like those guys. They've convinced the illegals that the lawless ones are the ICE agents. ICE agents are federal agents. They're police officers. They're federal agents like the FBI, the ATF, the Secret Service, any other federal agent. Okay? And what they're doing is lawful. And we're going to get more information about this guy because there's just something that stinks about what he was doing that day. He wasn't just going off to the office every day, and he was up to some type of organized criminal activity involving illegals. And we'll find out. We haven't yet, but we will. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Why would you believe one word that the Wagner Group says about that?
Okay. Now, I want to share this clip. This is a Texas Democrat, right? And she's, of course, because this incident happened in Texas. Listen.
You know, this is about making sure that civil rights are protected, human rights are protected, constitutional rights are protected in this country. Because it is today here in our country, our city, but it could be any other city. And we saw it happen in Minneapolis, we saw it happen in Chicago, in terms of ICE presence, I'm sorry. So we have learned some lessons. Apparently ICE has learned nothing. If they really think that a car is going to hurt somebody, even a kid would tell you shoot the tires.
Okay, you shoot the tires, and they tell you, what did she say about a car hurting people?
Saw it happen in Minneapolis, we saw it happen in Chicago, in terms of ICE presence, I'm sorry. So we have learned some lessons. Apparently ICE has learned nothing. If they really think that a car is going to hurt somebody, even a kid would tell you shoot the tires.
How many people are in prison for vehicular manslaughter? Cars don't hurt. Why do we teach children to look left, look right, and look left again before they cross the street? Why are there crossing guards? Why are there street lights? Why are there crosswalks if cars can't hurt people? What a dumb statement. But hey, you got a Democrat there. Cars, they're under the impression that cars can hurt. Of course they can. A car can be a very deadly weapon. And this thing about shooting the tires, that doesn't stop. When my daughter moved to L.A., thankfully she's moved back to Florida, but when my daughter moved to L.A., I started watching the local news online, right, out of L.A. And by the way, if you have a child who's moved to Los Angeles, don't watch the local news. It'll scare the living daylights out of you, okay? And there's a couple of guys I'd watch on YouTube. They do these live streams on YouTube in the middle of the night. They just go to police calls on YouTube and it'll scare the daylights out of you. But I got kind of into watching on the local news, which really passes for entertainment in Southern California. The police chases. You ever watch the police chases? The news helicopters. They just take off and just hover over LA and wait for the chase of the day. How many times have you seen a police chase? It ends up that the car in the chase loses the rubber off of one of the wheels, and they're still going 80, 100 miles an hour on a rim. I've seen that so many times. There's a lot of sparks coming out and everything. It really, this thing about the migrants, okay? This is an important thing to discuss. Why do Democrats and Republicans have such different views of what's going on so far as the illegals? I'm going to explain it to you after the break, okay? I'm going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I'm going to share something with you, and I'll explain to you what's really going on with the migrants and the Democrats and why they have an opinion on these things. That's the complete polar opposite of the Republicans. But first, I want to talk about Tom Laporta over at Laporta Roofing. Here in the state of Florida, it is rainy season, it is hurricane season. It rains every day. If you've got a wet spot on your ceiling, you've got a leak in your roof. And there's so many people that are new to Florida and you haven't experienced a hurricane or a tropical storm. And let me tell you, it's not fun. I don't worry because I'm prepared. I got a great roof. I've got a generator. I've got everything. I got hurricane windows. I've got hurricane on my doors on my house, on my garage, and everything else. But if you have a roof that is in need of repair, you're in big trouble in a hurricane or even a tropical storm. When a storm is categorized, like say Cat 1 hurricane or a tropical storm, the storms are categorized based on the sustained winds, right? So we might have, as an example, a tropical storm. There were still Category 1 strength wind gust in a tropical storm. They're just not sustained. You get a Cat 1 hurricane, okay? You're still getting Cat Hurricane 2 or 3 wind gusts. They're just not sustained. It's very important. And that loose shingle, that loose tile, is an entryway into your home for the winds. And once it gets under there, it rips the roof off and you're done. You're in big trouble. Tom Laporta covers both the east and west coast of Florida and everywhere in between. He's a good MAGA guy who will never sell you a roof you do not need. Give him a call or text. This number rings directly to Tom Laporta. 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, LaportaRoofing.com. We'll take a quick break, and I'll tell you why there's the big difference between Republicans and Democrats on what is going on in Texas and with the migrants in general after this.
What if one misdiagnosis could change the course of your life? Author Alessandro Sapia tells the unforgettable story of Alex, a brilliant Stanford PhD student whose life is transformed after witnessing a devastating medical mistake. Determined to help doctors catch what others miss, Alex launches an AI-powered medical startup with his best friend. What begins as a bold mission to save lives quickly becomes a high-stakes journey through the world of Silicon Valley, where billion-dollar dreams, ruthless investors, impossible choices, and personal sacrifice collide. Part medical thriller, part startup drama, and part deeply human story. Silicon Heartbeats explores the price of ambition, the promise of artificial intelligence, and the relationship that matters most when everything is on the line. If you enjoy The Social Network, Bad Blood, or Super Pumped, this is a novel you won't want to miss. Order your copy of Silicon Heartbeats, a Silicon Valley novel of AI, ambition, and the cost of changing the world, from author Alessandro Sapia. Available right now on Amazon and Kindle and paperback, and SiliconHeartbeats.com. Are you looking for jewelry that's as unique as you are? Then check out Kita Luxury on Etsy, where every piece is handcrafted with passion, artistry, and the natural beauty of genuine crystals and gemstones. Inspired by a love for one-of-a-kind bohemian designs, Kita Luxury was created with a simple mission: to make extraordinary handmade jewelry accessible to everyone. Behind every creation is a talented team of skilled artisans, each bringing their custom expertise to metalwork, stone cutting, beading, and fine jewelry craftsmanship to produce stunning wearable works of art. Whether you're searching for a breathtaking statement necklace, elegant earrings, handcrafted bracelets, beautiful rings, or meaningful jewelry for both men and women, you'll discover pieces that celebrate your individuality and personal style. Every design is carefully handcrafted using high-quality, natural materials, creating jewelry that's more than an accessory. It's a reflection of who you are. Whether you're shopping for yourself or searching for the perfect gift, Kita Luxury offers timeless handcrafted jewelry designed to inspire, delight, and be treated for years to come. These healing crystals are some of the best healing jewelry on Etsy. Visit KeetaLuxury.etsy.com. That's KEETA luxury.etsy.com. KeetaLuxury.etsy.com. Handcrafted jewelry that tells your story. KeetaLuxury.etsy.com. One mother's fight over adoption fraud and child trafficking has inspired a powerful new book series calling for greater government accountability. The Colorado Government Book Series from author Lindsay Schaefer. It's a deeply personal collection based on her own experiences and years of legal and personal battles. From The Missing, which covers where her daughter was kidnapped and child human trafficked out of the state of Colorado. Imperium Conflictus, which features a 14-year disability custody case and spousal support case, and warranty of habitability, where Lindsay describes the unlivable conditions she found helping the poor, with 10 shelters in Denver, Colorado having mold and asbestos. Author Lindsay Schaefer shares her perspective on child custody, disability benefits, homelessness, and the challenges she faced while seeking justice. If you're searching for a thought-provoking book series that raises the difficult questions and encourages readers to think for themselves, order the Colorado Government Book Series from author Lindsay Schaefer online at payhip.com/Lindsay777. That's payhip.com/777.
All right, we're back. I'm Brian. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. So back to what we were talking about, this incident in Texas with the migrants and what the Democrats are doing. You know, this is a story today. This is really a crazy story, and sick and twisted on top of it. Marco Rubio stepped up, Florida's own. I tell you, here in Florida, we love Marco Rubio. He's great. Marco Rubio deports foreign child rapist that was pardoned by Tim Walz. This guy, this was crazy. Now, Tim Walz, for those that have forgotten, he was Kamala Harris's running mate. They were trying to make him vice president of the United States. And after of course, he lost is when Nick Shirley went to Minneapolis, and we found out about the Leering centers and everything else. And we had no idea how corrupt Tim Walz was. We knew he was a bad guy. Remember, he liked to hang out over in Tiananmen Square and everything else. He's a crazy guy. This guy this illegal that he gave a pardon to, he's from Laos. He raped a 10-year-old girl. And after he got busted, he said, oh, it's a cultural thing. In Laos, this is, it's okay. What kind of person, governor, gives a pardon to someone who did the most horrific thing you can do? That's at the level, that's a capital crime. That's at the level of murder. And he gave them a pardon, Tim Walz. It's crazy. Marco Rubio's deported the guy. And it probably was not easy for him to do it. So there's this strange thing that's going on. Well, I wanted to share this. I played this because I played this on yesterday's podcast and on the morning show today, because it illustrates exactly what's going on with the Democrats. By the way, if you're new to the program, welcome. Make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. The Brian Craig Show is available on all podcast platforms. Just search for The Brian Craig Show. And if you want to catch the show in live video form, where you hear me taking calls and you can see me, and of course also see all the videos and everything I play, that's on YouTube. You can catch the show on YouTube. Just search Brian Craig on YouTube or The Brian Craig Show. The Democrats support bringing migrants in here for a number of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is it's a workforce, okay? This is a guy who's a manager of some type of plant/factory in South Carolina. He's talking to the local Fox News affiliate the day after there was an ICE raid at the plant that he manages.
When you look around and there's nobody there, it's dead. It's dead. I mean, we went from having 100 employees working in there to we might have had 24 there today. It's sad. Had a gun, and he pointed it at me like that. He said, "You are putting those cuffs on." And I look at him, and are you going to shoot me? And I stuck my arms out there like that. Never seen nothing like that in my life. That's the only time I've ever had a gun pointed at me in my life. I didn't know what was going on, and I heard people screaming. So I walk into the machine shop, and there's 50, 60 agents in there.
Okay, so 75 of his employees are gone because of the ICE raid. One of the many things the migrants are to the left, to the Democrats, is a slave population. Remember when President Trump was running, you would hear things like Kelly Osbourne and others would say, "Who's going to mow your lawn? Who's going to clean your toilets?" Right? They're like, they don't even think anything's wrong with it. If you go through and this guy here, one of the reasons I like this guy is because he doesn't even know anything's wrong. You know why? He's a South Carolina Democrat. South Carolina was like the heart of the Confederacy. There's so many slaves in South Carolina. They had more slaves than most any other state in South Carolina during the antebellum period. And the Democrats have always had slaves. And they first I'm going to go through this real quick, okay? I'm not going to go through some big history lesson with you. But they first started, they tried to make the Native American Indian slaves, and that didn't work. But when the slaves were freed by the Republicans after the Civil War was over, they started the sharecropping business, which was a form of slavery, okay? And there is a book. I don't keep a lot of books. I keep some books that I think are important books that, and there's one of the most important books that's ever been written in the United States is a book written by a white man whose last name is Blackman. Blackman. I've got it in the closet in my bedroom on his shelf. And if I remember, I'll take it off there over the weekend and show it to you guys on YouTube. The book is titled Slavery by Another Name. Slavery by Another Name, and the author's last name is Blackman. When I read this, I saw an interview with him on C-SPAN about his book, and he talked about it for a few. I couldn't believe what he was saying. I went out and got the book, and I was shocked at what I read. These are the periods of the Democrat Party in this country. First, they had African American slaves. The slaves were freed, so they started sharecropping. So the former plantation owners, they couldn't do the plantation work anymore. They lost their slave labor, so they cut up the land and did sharecropping. And that was the second slavery that they had. And what they did with sharecropping is the newly released slaves, they thought they were getting their own land. They were renting the land. But not only were they renting the land, they were renting everything. They were renting the equipment, the shovels, the hoe to, plant with. They were high interest, the seeds and everything else, and they were still slaves on the plantation but didn't know it. That went on for a long time. And then that people caught on to that and said, hey, the sharecropping, they're still doing the slavery, these Confederate Democrats. So then this book I'm telling you about called Slavery by Another Name, this is the third phase of slavery by the Democrats in this country. I'm not counting the Indians because that didn't last long. So the first wave of slavery the Democrats had were the African American slaves that were just slaves. The second were the sharecroppers, who also were mostly African American. Okay, so they had the African American slaves. Second slavery wave the Democrats had were the sharecroppers, and then the third is what I learned when I read this book: Slavery by Another Name. That was Jim Crow. Jim Crow, Democrat Jim Crow, right, with segregation and everything. Well, what the Democrats were doing during Jim Crow, and that's what Slavery by Another Name is about, is they would arrest black men for nothing. They would say they were loitering. They'd go to the county jail. And the county jails of the Democrat South, all the way up through from 1900 all the way up through the 1960s, were filled with a new slave labor population. So all these Democrat county sheriffs would arrest, using the Jim Crow laws, any black man they could find, and he wasn't even doing anything, and they would say he was. They'd put him in the county jail, and then the county Democrat sheriff would rent out the labor to whoever, farmers, lumber yards, quarries, sweatshops. And this went on for about 100 years almost, this Jim Crow thing, where they were using county prison or county jail labor, mostly black, to do slave labor in the South. They did that till the 1960s. It's crazy, isn't it? You guys got to get that book, Slavery by Another Name. Blackman, I want to say Kenneth Blackman. I could be wrong about the first name. The last name is Blackman. I remember because he's white. And I got a white guy named Blackman, who wrote a book about race. So when Jim Crow ended, they lost that. So that was the third wave of Democrat slavery. Right now, we're in the fourth wave of Democrat slavery, and that's the illegal migrants. They use them in this guy's plant in South Carolina. They use them in childcare. They use them on construction sites, like this guy that was just shot dead by ICE. I think I heard one report that said they were construction workers. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but I heard that. So the Democrat Party has been a party of slavery from the beginning, and it's never ended. The only thing that's changed is, like the title of that book, it's slavery by another name. Like the migrants, they're stuck here. And if you notice, the Democrats, when the Democrats were in charge of the country, before Trump came down the escalator, right? And they had the Dreamers and all these deferred status people and everything else. The Democrats would never make it permanent. And the reason they didn't make it permanent is that if they made it permanent and they became legal U.S. citizens, they could go out and get regular jobs, right? Because they would have documents. And they always wanted to keep their migrants, who are a slave population in large part, held by Democrats around the country like this. Now, it's not the same kind of slavery. There's the illusion of freedom, but they pay them very little money, and they're always in fear of being rounded up and deported, especially now. So the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, when it comes to this, we're still fighting the Democrat Confederates from the Civil War. The Democrat insurrection of the Civil War to maintain slavery has never ended. The Democrats believe that the Confederate Democrats, Jefferson Davis and all the rest, believe they had a God-given right to be slave owners and masters. And they're still maintaining that. That's why this guy here, who's from South Carolina, is probably descendant of a long line of South Carolinians, and that's the heart of slavery in the South. And this is really a crazy thing. But the Democrat Party is and always has been about slavery. They're not now the migrants, they serve other purposes too, okay? They use them for their financial fraud with the Medicaid. I know there's a lot of that. They move them around to try to change the demographics for congressional districts and stuff. There's multiple purposes, but the main purpose is to have a slave labor population in the country. And what I just gave you was just a quick few-minute history of this. I should write a book about this, quite honestly. I know so much about it. And it's really a story that has not been told quite this way, although you should get that book, Slavery by Another Name. I don't know. I'm sure it's still available on Amazon. I kept it because it's such an important book, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get it. There was one other important book I kept that unfortunately got water damage on something, but I keep it on a shelf high up in my closet. But I'll show it to you guys on a YouTube video. Maybe over the weekend, because people need to get that book. But the Democrat Party, there's never been a period where the Democrat Party hasn't been trying to maintain a slave population subservient to them. And what we're doing is ending modern day slavery in this country. And people think slavery is over. It is not. Now, if you would like to support my program and all the content I bring you, the morning show, my podcast, my YouTube channel, everything I do, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link to my Patreon page in the description of this and episode on whatever platform you're listening on. And when you become a Patreon supporter, when you go there, there's an option to become a free Patreon supporter. If you become a free Patreon member, you do not have access to any of the content there. You don't even see it. It's like a blank webpage if you become a free member. You have to be a paying Patreon supporter, and that starts at just $5 a month. And there's a lot of exclusive content there, including my daily Patreon exclusive live streams. And it's a live stream very much like here on YouTube with a live chat. It is a troll-free zone. It's a great community. And I talk about things that I cannot talk about here. okay, and that you'll never hear me talk about here, but I cover them all on Patreon. The link is in the description of the episode on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you become a top Patreon supporter, you get a live on-air thank you, shout out on every episode, and you get your name up on the screen here on YouTube. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SF Jr., Christine, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, Lizep, Shauna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, Teresa, Irene, Rick, Michael, and Robert R. These are my top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. I'm going to look and see if that book I'm talking about is on Amazon for you guys. Slavery by Another Name. Because I've had this book since it came out. And let me see if I can find it. Because I really, everything. Yes, okay. And, yeah, you can get a good deal on it. Came out in 2008. Oh, my goodness, I've had that book that long. But this, I'll pull it up here. It is on Amazon. And it's called Slavery by Another Name. And it's Douglas A. Blackman, not Kenneth Blackman. That must be somebody else. It's Slavery by Another Name. And the subtitle is The Re-Enslavement of Black Americans from the Civil War to World War II. And the author is Douglas A. Blackman. It's one of the most important books ever written about American history in this country, and it's really one that nobody knows about because it doesn't fit the narrative, and they don't want you to know about it. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Those of you that are new, welcome to the show. Make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you're tuned in from. And if everybody could please do me the favor of liking the video, I'd greatly appreciate that. Please like the video. If you're watching on YouTube, when you like the video, it gets the video recommended to people that have not yet found my channel. So please like the video. And if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast on one of the podcast platforms, subscribe and follow. It's always free to do. And that on the audio podcast platforms, following and subscribing has the same effect as liking on YouTube. It gets the podcast recommended to people that have not yet found me. So please do that. Again, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll see you bright and early, first thing, tomorrow morning. Thanks for tuning in.